All right. Trying something new with video to reach more people. So this month, our theme is Sharpen Your Tools, and that is both in space and time as well as in the magazine. Space and Time is kind of the fiction reimagining version of the theme. And then, excuse me, on the Substack here, I have the nonfiction version. So today we're going to be talking about the sharpest tool is discernment. And I'm going to go there. What AI detectors can teach us about every tool on our deck or our desk. I'll say desk. So right now, the publishing industry, if you haven't noticed, is imploding over a five-alarm problem, and that is the prevalence of AI-generated submissions. A lot of people that are publishing are reporting AI-gen submissions in the hundreds, like just tons, being so inundated with this. And I totally get the complaint. Editors have overflowing, and I am an editor, so I can tell you firsthand, overflowing submission queues. And nobody wants to spend hours reading mass-produced stories where somebody has just generated this with the click of a button and then sent it off to 100 markets. We're usually writers ourselves. And so we've spent our best years of our lives hunched over computers to hone our craft, and we've paid for the privilege of being writers with missed social lives and sweat and many, many, many tears. So, and I do want to clarify something real quick. I keep getting asked for I wish I was asked, but I keep getting told what my stance is on generative AI. And a while back, I did release a statement when I was attacked over the AI discovery issue, which was number 144 of Space and Time. And I did make my stance clear at that time, and the response was very negative, very negative. I was told I was a liar, and I was told that I should remove myself from this earth over this stance, but nobody had actually read it. So years later, so I haven't actually given a stance since then, but years later, let's do this. My AI stance for AI generated creative work is that I am not and have never been supportive of using AI generated work. I'm actually more mystified by anyone who wants to be a writer would even bother, because it's not for a lot of money and there's not a lot of kudos in being a writer. So, pittance or pride, there doesn't seem to be a lot of reason for either. So I don't know why anybody would generate work with AI necessarily, but I'm not for it, and I never have been from the get-go. And the experimental AI discovery issue from 2023 that started all of this rumor was actually about exploring how writers and artists were actually using the tools. And it was controversial then. And I think that the best response to controversy is examination rather than hearsay. So that ebook version of edition number 144 is free for anybody who wants to read the experiment and make up your own mind. And the code is in the written section of this and is actually on the link. So you can't say you couldn't find it, but you'll use code C for yourself to get 100% off that issue. So, but let's go back to why I'm actually here. So what is sending cold shivers down my spine about these publishers and all the AI generated text that they're getting is when I ask how they know for sure that it is AI submissions, the response has been the detector caught them, the AI detector. And so I want to preface that I don't think these publishers are lying. I don't think that they're reporting these problems and they're trying to deceive us. And I don't think that AI detectors are useless. Every publication is within their rights to protect themselves from AI or any other kind of spam. And it's not the first kind of spam we've been hit with over the years. The question burning in my mind is much simpler. And it's, what exactly do these tools establish? And even perhaps more importantly, what are we justified in doing with that information? So I want to recognize when information starts feeling like judgment. I think there's a slippery slope here, and it extends far beyond the AI detectors. We tend to trust things that give us numbers. We live for scores, and percentages, and graphs, and rankings. And many of us, including myself, spend far too much of our creative hours deciphering analytics dashboards, trying to figure out what does this mean. Numbers reassure us. So if a tool tells us that a manuscript is 87% something, that feels more substantial than an editor saying, "This something about this manuscript is wrong and makes me feel suspicious." So one of those is an opinion, and one of them sounds like evidence. And that can be comforting, but the tools should not eliminate our human discernment, ever. They give us information, but that information still requires us, the humans, to make the final call. An AI detector can identify patterns its system associates with generative writing, which is trained on human writing, but it doesn't automatically tell you what that information means. It allows us to assume, hopefully using our discernment. So that's our job as humans, and that is actually where the discernment comes in. So I would like us to reimagine humans as the decision maker here. This becomes especially important when the stakes rise. So imagine an editor uses an AI detector as one signal that a manuscript deserves a closer look. Fair enough. Plagiarism, we've had these problems in the past. But now imagine the detector's result could become the sole reason an author is permanently banned from ever submitting to that organization or that publication. Those are not the same use of that tool. The information hasn't changed. It's the same piece, just the consequence. So to be accused, put yourself in this writer's position, to be accused of your story being written by AI is emotionally devastating. It's already hard enough to be a writer. We have to pull this out of ourselves, we silence the imposter, and then we submit it, exposing ourselves. We pull ourselves apart to create. To be banned is a pretty serious consequence, and that means the amount of certainty we, as publishers and the editors, our certainty should be required to change with the consequence. The greater the consequence, the stronger the evidence should be. So this is not an argument against using tools, but it's a plea for using them with discernment. There's an irony in publishing right now. We're worried about algorithms replacing human creators. So we need to be very careful that our solution isn't allowing an algorithm to determine which writers are human. So I want us to build, especially those in the publishing industry, especially those who are responsible for saying the yeses and the nos. I want us to build a discernment checklist. It goes along with this month's theme of sharpen your tools. And I think discernment might be one of the most important tools we can sharpen. Before I make an important decision based on what a tool tells me, I want to consider 5 things. The first thing is signal. What is the tool actually telling me? Not what I think it means or what I think it's telling me, not what social media is telling me it means, but what does it actually measure? So 87% AI, or this system identified linguistic patterns associated with generated text, are very psychologically different statements. The first, saying 87% AI, sounds like a verdict. The second is inconclusive. The second tool is context. What could reasonably produce this result? What else could reasonably produce this result? And this is the part where we have to think past the first explanation. So it could be associated with generative text. Could an editing tool have affected that prose? Could someone's writing style simply be unusually smooth and regular because of neurodivergence? Or this is their first language, English is not their first language? Could the sample be too small that was uploaded? Could the metric be measuring something adjacent to the thing I actually care about? If I care about the AI writing, is it actually measuring something else, like neurodivergence? And finally, especially when you're talking about corporations, and we are, that is who owns the AI detectors, what incentives does the company behind the tool have? And could those incentives influence how it presents the risk, the certainty, and accuracy? So third is corroboration. What independent evidence supports this conclusion? One tool agreeing with itself is not corroboration. What else do I know about this piece and this author? What else can I observe? Do multiple independent pieces of evidence all point to the same direction? Has somebody told me that they used AI to generate the story, and then I asked them and they said something that made me think that this is true and the AI detector detected it? Have I tested the accuracy of this AI detector, and I think this is very important, with the accuracy of my own work or work that I know is verified human content? And I'm just going to tell you, I put the Bible. I have not really messed with the AI detectors much. And so last week I put the Bible and a piece of my own writing, which was from 2010, through the AI detector. And the story that I had written came up 67% possibly AI written. And the Bible is 100% or 99% or something that it was written by AI. And I'm pretty sure, possibly, we are in a speculative setting, that it is not written by AI. But I'm not going to go on a soapbox about that. But we just want to make sure that we are verifying the accuracy of these. So far, just verify it for yourself. So the fourth tool is consequence. And this is a big one. What happens if I'm wrong? This is the most important question. A false positive and a false negative do not have necessarily equal costs. And neither does choosing the wrong headline or accusing somebody publicly of dishonesty. The more serious the consequence, and I cannot emphasize this enough, the more serious the consequence, the more carefully I want to examine what I'm relying on to make that consequence. And finally, confidence. Is the evidence I have strong enough for the action I'm about to take? If I accuse this person of using AI generated work, what is the consequence? Am I willing to take a step if this is a false positive? Does my confidence match that consequence? And my personal answer, and we all have to have our own personal answer for that, but my personal answer is no. I will not use AI to test if somebody's work is AI so that I can punish them, especially when there are so many false positives, and I don't believe it is my place to punish anybody. I don't want to punish writers. I want to support them. So I hope that we can become the writers and the editors and the publishers who don't outsource our judgment. There's another consequence of AI detection that bothers me even more than the false accusations. And that is what happens when writers become so afraid of being accused that they begin adapting their work for the AI detectors. So imagine writing every single word of a story yourself, like my story, that first story that I ran through that was published in 2010, running it through a detector and seeing likely AI generated appear. So even if you wrote that, especially in today's climate, you might panic. So you change a sentence, scan it again, remove the em dashes. I will never forgive the em dash fury. Break that balanced sentence up, because apparently beautiful balanced sentences are a tell of AI. Eventually the detector will give you a green light. And really, what did you win? Congratulations. You've successfully convinced a machine that you're human. We should already know this. In the quest for human writing, the writer can stop writing for the reader and start writing for the detector. And what happens to literature when we're so afraid for being mistaken for AI that we start altering human writing to satisfy a machine's definition of human? The goal isn't to let the machines think for us. The goal isn't to let the machines create for us. It's to let them do the tedious, non-creative tasks so that we can do what we are created for, which is making. That's what we're made for, making stuff, whether it's writing or art or whatever, music. So that's true whether the tool is an AI detector, an editing program, an analytics dashboard, a style guide, a publishing expert you saw on YouTube, a social platform, or an AI assistant. Useful tools are meant to extend our abilities, but they should never replace our responsibility to think for ourselves. I hope you like the video format. Let me know what you think. All of this is written below, along with the link to go download that issue of the magazine for yourself so you can see for yourself. And I'm going to continue this conversation in the Opportunities community, a free community that we have, so we can share our personal experiences in the safety of our own space and reimagine what is possible. And our question for this week is going to be sharing our thoughts and experiences with AI detectors. You can join the free private community to be a part of that conversation, or leave a comment on Substack. I'll see you next week.